And joining us now with more insight on tonight's speech and the political issues facing the country, WGN political analyst Paul Lisnek.
Hey guys.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
So the president says MAGA Republicans don't understand what every truly patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. The president has stayed away from mentioning Trump and MAGA Republicans, but tonight he went full force, full throttle. Why now?
Well, tonight's speech was billed as one that was not going to be a political speech, but it was political from beginning to end. A lot of people say it was like a campaign speech. To me, it was almost the opening of his 2024 campaign if he were to run. He did call out Trump right from the beginning, and it's something he doesn't like to do, has not really done it, but he's in campaign mode. He's in campaign mode now for 2022. So there's no question about it. He reviewed the accomplishments of administration. He talked about the importance of the Constitution. So he had some higher esoteric kinds of points to make, and he did make those. But clearly, this was a moment of politics and election time for him.
Kevin McCarthy, what about his rebuttal, saying that he should apologize?
Well, as you said, of course, it was a pre-buttal because he actually spoke before President Biden even spoke. But that notion of calling apology, look, I think the president has been aware that people are very concerned that he seems to be calling out all Republicans. So he also made it clear tonight, Micah, that he's not talking about all Republicans, that he works with conservative Republicans. This was about, and they're now pretty much named, MAGA Republicans. So Kevin McCarthy, who needs that base, and he's got a lot of potential Congress members coming in the new term who will be MAGA Republicans. So Kevin McCarthy, who wants to be Speaker, is not about to turn them away. But clearly the president has set up a line between, if you're a MAGA Republican, you're not on my team here, but if you are a Republican in general, it's okay.
What about the timing of this, Paul? I mean, the midterm election is still a little ways off here. Close enough? Or is the timing not quite right?
Well, I mean, I think as you guys know so well, I mean, Labor Day really is the kickoff, right? I mean, there is no non-political season anymore, but Labor Day is the kickoff. And this speech, of course, just before Labor Day hit. So maybe he's a few days early in doing it. But once again, they tried to bill it as it wasn't a political speech. So he was maybe trying to have people not see it as a kickoff to the season. But clearly, as you identified, this absolutely was.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a little bit of hot water after sending all the migrants here to Chicago and D.C. and New York. What about that?
You know, it's funny, Micah. He's in hot water here and D.C. and New York, but I took a look at some polls in Texas. He actually has a current poll, 51% of those people favor what he's doing. Others actually think he should be going even more so. And at this point, it's reported the Texans don't even feel the $12 million it's been costing them on their taxes. They want to see him control the border. This is working for him politically. It's probably why he's doing it.
Mayor Lightfoot not happy.
Well, Mayor Lightfoot doing what, Sanctuary City. Chicago's going to step up. I've been getting social media comments from people saying, we have homeless here, we have people who need help here. I think the mayor would say, we do. This is just a separate issue, and Chicago has to stand up for this.
Well, let's talk about talking about the political divide here. Trump's lawyers today called the documents there. They compared it to an overdue library book. Yeah, and here we still wait to get the judge's ruling on the special master.
So look, and I say this as a lawyer, not as a political analyst, because as a lawyer, I can tell you that the documents, take Trump out of it, the documents being found at any former president's residence, what happened was clearly illegal. The scene that our viewers are seeing right now, Trump went after that today, saying they made it look like I left documents on the floor. That's the way the FBI does their pictures, right? So nobody was saying he left anything on the floor. But this is nothing like an overdue library book. What way will the judge go? She did not rule today. She seems to be leaning towards giving him the special master, but I actually think that's a bent to social pressure, because a special master, somebody who would come in and look at documents that would be affected by attorney-client privilege. There is no attorney-client privilege being claimed here. It's all executive privilege, and executive privilege belongs with the current president, not this president. So the right answer for this judge is actually to deny the request for a special master and simply let things proceed. One indication that it could go that way, she did not stop DOJ from continuing their exploration of documents today. She could have said, I want you to hold and wait till I make my ruling, which would suggest she didn't want him to do it. She didn't do that, so they continue.
Once the dust settles, could there be an indictment?
Well, there absolutely could be an indictment. I don't think Merrick...
Will there be an indictment?
Well, that's the $64,000 question. I don't think Merrick Garland, I can tell you, for anybody who's looking for an indictment, they're not going to see anything. I think certainly not prior to the election. At this point, DOJ doesn't do anything, probably not until the new year. But it's not just Trump that needs to worry about this. The lawyers surrounding him, people, woman who signed off saying, yeah, everything's been turned over when it hasn't. There are a lot of people in his orbit who are in deep trouble. The January 6th committee, the DOJ has its grand jury and has Pat Cipollone coming in tomorrow. I mean, everything is truly ramped up. there will be indictments somewhere against somebody. And I've said
Trump.
Well, and as I've said before, I think that look, I'm going to be honest about it. The bottom line for Trump is this: if the DOJ looks the other way with the things that Trump has done with regard to these documents, just that alone, talk about that, then essentially it's giving carte blanche to any future president, any future politician who does anything like this in the future. If he does indict him, yes, there will be lots of problems with his supporters and probably violence to be faced in the streets. But I think as a lawyer, it is more difficult for Merrick Garland not to charge it than to charge it just for its statement about democracy.
What's coming up Sunday?
Hey, Sunday on WGN-TV Political Report, I've got Terry Savage is going to come in because this whole student loan thing still has people buzzing, and Terry thinks it really wasn't handled the right way, got issues with it. We're going to go through that with her. And then there's so many, every time you turn around, another alderman is retiring again. Tom Tunney this week.
It's like half a dozen, right?
Leslie Hairston, former
earlier,
student of mine, is retiring. So we've got soon-to-be retiring Michelle Smith and James Kaplan. They're going to reflect back on their 11 years, and I will also ask them a little bit about whether Mayor Lightfoot faces any tough challenges. Go ahead.
A lot of stuff.
They'll be candid. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. All right.
We'll do
Sunday
it at
morning,
9 o'clock.
9 a.m.
And I know Ray will be up watching.
We always are. Paul, thanks for being here tonight.